Hello everyone and welcome to this edition of the QuickBooks webinar series. Today we're going to talk about year-end tasks. We've created a general guide to help you complete what's necessary to prepare you and your business for the upcoming tax year. We'll break down the tasks to complete for each month, followed by a quick demo in product. We'll also go over resources you have available at your fingertips to get help when you need it. So without further ado, let's get started. December is a good time to tie up any loose ends before closing the year. Before the end of the calendar year, it's a good time to remind your customers of any outstanding balances that they owe you. If nothing is owing, you can forward them a statement of their activity with your business throughout the year. It's also good practice so you know where your business stands at the end of the year. To do this in QuickBooks, you'll go to the Sales tab and then down to Customers. Select the boxes here beside the customer who have open balances or balance owing. Then, in the Batch Action drop-down, select Create Statements. In the Statement Type drop-down, we're going to select Balance Forward, as this lists invoices and payments with outstanding balances for a specific date range. Before we can send these statements off, we'll need to provide the email addresses. If you already have them saved in your customer profile, they will pull up into this field automatically. The other statement types up here, Open Item, lists all open unpaid invoices from the last 365 days, and Transaction Statement lists all transactions for a selected date range. While we're in QuickBooks looking for what's outstanding, we can also run reports for AR and AP aging summaries, which will also tell us what's outstanding. Here you can see the three customers that we decided to send statements for. They all have balance owing. But there's a few more here that we still need to send statements for. Next, let's talk about retained earnings, profit distributions to owners and partners, as well as dividends. Now, it's not mandatory, but if you choose to distribute profits known as retained earnings to owners or partners, it should be done before the end of the calendar year. The equity accounts can be set up for each partner if your business is a partnership, and this situation will be different based on how your business is registered and whether or not you are distributing dividends to shareholders outside of your partnership. For this, it's best to speak to an accountant. If you have any questions, they can set up the accounts for you as well. That way, going forward, it's easier for you to distribute profits. Next, let's talk about preparing for the tax season by giving your accountant access to your books. Many small businesses use an accountant, especially during tax time. So if you haven't already, now would be a good time to give your accountant access to your QuickBooks Online company file so they can review your financial reports, verify if anything is outstanding, and make the necessary changes before the end of the calendar year. To do this in QuickBooks, you'll go to the gear, down to Manage Users, and then click on Accounting Firms and enter your accountant's email to send the invite. And lastly, let's talk about home currency adjustments if using multi-currency in QuickBooks Online. If you're a business that is shipping or buying items internationally, you're likely using the multi-currency feature in QuickBooks Online. Those foreign balances are currently sitting in your accounts receivable or payable accounts based on the exchange rates that you used at the time of each transaction as an unrealized gain or loss. At the end of a reporting period, when you need your financial reports, such as your balance sheet, to show accurately in your home currency, you will need to do a valuation of your foreign balances and enter a home currency adjustment in QuickBooks Online. Because now that you've received the funds, you've realized gains or losses, and they're showing in your bank account. And you need your financial reports to balance. So it's always a good idea to speak to an accountant about this. Some prefer to do this on their own, but it's important to do this before closing the books. So to show you in QuickBooks, we're going to go up to the gear icon and down to currencies. Here you're going to find the currency you want to adjust, and then click on the down arrow under the action column and select Revalue Currency. Here you'll select the date, either today or a date in the past, to run the currency revaluation. You can also select the market rate or choose to enter a custom rate based on an exchange rate that your bank is giving you. Then you'll select the accounts you want to apply the revaluation to. Here in my test account, I only have one account type. Then you'll select Revalue. And this will make sure your reports are more accurate. Now, to get more information on this at a later time, you can go to our website, quickbooks.intuit.com, and then select Learn and Support and search through our resource articles. If you search Enter Home Currency Adjustments, you'll see this article that gives you the steps for revaluing your currency. You can also search for Home Currency Adjustments FAQ, as this has some more information for you if required. Now let's move on to January tasks for year-end. At this point, you'll have all your statements from the previous year, so it's a good time to reconcile your accounts, prepare reports, and see how your business did in the last year. So although January is the start of a new year, there are still some tasks that you will need to complete to close out the previous year, and reconciling your accounts is one of them. To make sure you have the most accurate information in your financial reports, you'll want to reconcile accounts against actual statements and bills. This will uncover any discrepancies in your books, which you can then correct or investigate further. So now to show you in QuickBooks, you'll go to the gear icon and down to Reconcile. Then you'll select the bank account you want to reconcile, or any account that you want to reconcile, and then enter the ending balance and end date based on your statements. I haven't reconciled all year, so this will be my January bank statement. Then go ahead and click Start Reconciling. Now, based off of everything I see on my bank statement, I will verify with what I see on my screen. And I want this balance to be 0, or the difference to be 0. This tells me that my account is reconciled. The process would be easier if you also have your bank account connected, your online banking connected. If you're adding your transactions to your books from online banking, these check marks will already be checked off because you've already done a partial reconciliation when you've added from your bank, from your online bank account. So just to recap, when you reconcile an account, you compare the beginning balance, match transactions listed in QuickBooks against what actually happened, and make sure they match, and at the end, your ending balances for the account should match. Reconciling may seem a little bit intimidating because of all the transactions, but doing it for one account at a time and reviewing each individual transaction one at a time is straightforward. If, when you do see a discrepancy, you would need to ask yourself if the transaction actually transpired, and did you provide a product or service for the transaction that you're seeing? If yes, did you receive your compensation for the transaction? And if you sent out your reminder statements in December, you might notice that the funds have hit your accounts much later than when they were entered in QuickBooks. So you might have a invoice for January, but you didn't get the funds until December when you sent out that reminder statement. So always check the dates, and you should be good to go. And of course, there are many resources available to help you with reconciliation. So again, if you go to quickbooks.intuit.com and then down to Learn and Support, you can search for what is reconciliation. And there's an article here that walks you through that. We also have an article on reconciling an account in QuickBooks Online. And it shows you or walks you through completing a reconciliation step by step. And actually it shows you here as well to reconcile accounts that are connected to online banking. The steps are a little bit easier than if the account is not connected. We also have an article on fixing issues if it's your first time doing a reconciliation in QuickBooks Online. If your beginning balance or opening balance for your reconciliation is not correct, or if it's not zero, it likely has to do with the opening balance equity that you entered for the account. So this article shows you how to update that or to change it and make it accurate so that when you go to do your reconciliation, the opening balance or beginning balance is accurate. Next, let's talk about running the balance sheet and profit and loss reports. If you don't run reports every few months, it's good practice to do it at the beginning of the year to know where your business stands financially, as this can help you plan out your business goals for the rest of the year. Two essential reports to run are your balance sheet and your profit and loss reports. Your balance sheet shows you what your business is worth as of a specific date by subtracting the money the business owes from everything it owns. Basically, the equation is equity equals assets minus your liabilities. Now let's show you how to run the balance sheet report in QuickBooks Online. So you'll go to the menu on the left-hand column here and go to Reports. And then usually your balance sheet and your profit and loss are showing right at the top here. So go ahead and click Balance Sheet. So ideally here you want to see that your total assets is balanced with your total liabilities and equity. Now, we've run this report for a specific date range, but keep in mind that this report keeps a running tab. So it will add opening balance. If you have something owing from the previous year, it will add to anything else that you have owing for this period that you've selected for this report. So in other words, it's a cumulative total. For example, if you didn't close out all your invoices last year, and so then your accounts receivable balance here would have those open invoices from the previous year, which don't show when you click on the report because your report is only between this time frame. So you'll have an opening balance and then all the transactions from this year. And then the other thing that you want to look for is your asset accounts. Generally, they should have a debit balance. If you look at it on the balance sheet, if it's got a credit balance, then there's something probably wrong that you're going to want to look into. And then vice versa for liability accounts. So here my asset accounts look good. Here my liability accounts. There's the GST HST payable account. So this is telling me that I have a payment to make. So looking at this report just kind of gives you a general idea of things that might be outstanding. Don't be afraid of the balance sheet. It's not only an accountant's report, it shows you the health of your business. Like for example, this is my bank balance. If it was a negative, I would know something is wrong. Generally, these accounts don't go into the negatives, so that would be a red flag. This lets you know that maybe you didn't reconcile that account because reconciliation will find out what's causing a negative balance. And if you, for whatever reason, the balance is actually supposed to be negative, at least you've made yourself aware and you can take care of it. Also on the balance sheet, you don't want to see any uncategorized accounts. If you do, it's something that you'll want to clean up. There shouldn't be anything in uncategorized income or uncategorized asset accounts. These accounts were put into place for the online banking feature. With transactions coming in, the banking feature doesn't always know what accounts the transactions are pertaining to, so it's placed into an uncategorized account until you determine which account it belongs to. This is based on where and what the funds were used for. For example, if you bought desks and chairs for the office, you know that it should go into a furniture and equipment asset account, not an uncategorized asset account. So I highly recommend that you look at this if you have the online banking feature turned on and categorize and determine what the correct asset accounts are for those transactions, because the uncategorized asset accounts won't know what to do with it. And so the same thing goes for uncategorized expense accounts. Set up your expense accounts correctly in QuickBooks Online, and then when any transactions come in from online banking, make sure to categorize it accordingly. Next, we'll look at the profit and loss. So we'll just go back up to the report list and click on profit and loss. So to start off, you can look at your sales. Anything in your sales, it should all be invoices. So just want to kind of look over it and make sure everything looks accurate. Looks pretty good to me. It doesn't seem like there's anything out of the ordinary. And then I can go back to my profit and loss and I can look at my expenses here as well. You can click on each amount to look at it in more detail, and looking at this can also help you determine where costs can be cut if needed by looking at your expenses here. So to recap, you want to look at these two reports to get an idea of what your business health looks like and what you might have outstanding. Once all that is done, the last step is to close the books. If you work with an accountant, be sure that they have reviewed your work and you've discussed any discrepancies with them first and taken care of those things. Closing the books means you're closing out the year that you've just reviewed and you're preventing any unwanted changes to your books before you file your taxes, so no one can go in and edit transactions dated before the closing date. So to show you this in QuickBooks Online, we'll go to the gear icon and down to Account and Settings, and then click on Advanced. And under the accounting section, you will see Close the Books. You'll go ahead and turn that on. And QuickBooks will allow you to make changes with a warning, or you can set a password, and so no one will be able to make any changes unless they have the password. So you can choose what works best for you, and then go ahead and save that to close the books. Now, January is a pretty busy month. The last task for January, if you have employees and you're using QuickBooks Online Payroll, remember that in January, T4s and the RL1 slips will become available. Now let's move on to February tasks for year end. The good news is that you have until February 28th as the deadline for submitting your employees' T4s and RL1s to CRA and Revenue Quebec. You must also provide your employees a copy of what you submitted for their own records and personal tax filing. These can be sent out to your employees through the QuickBooks Workforce portal. So to show you in QuickBooks, first you'll go to the Taxes tab and down to Payroll Tax. Under the Payroll Tax tab here, you're then going to click on Filings, and under Filings you will see Year-End Forms. Here you will see your T4 summary, your employer T-slips, as well as your employee copy. The employee copies can be sent through the Workforce portal. I don't have that set up, so I'll show you an article or resources to do that. So I'll go to Learn and Support and then search for how to prepare T4 slips and summary. Click on the first article here and scroll down to the section where it shows you the steps for sending T4 slips to your employees using Workforce. You'll want to keep this link handy for February when you need to send out your T-slips to your employees. And then lastly, you're preparing for tax time. So if you haven't already, you need to find your accountant and make sure your accountant has access to your books. And that's it. That's a brief summary of your year-end tasks from December to February. Have a great day.